Hello there. So, you want to get started making YouTube videos? Well, I've recently gone through that whole thing myself, so maybe I can help you out a little bit there and especially help you to avoid making the same mistakes that I made along the way. Just a note though, I'm making this video specifically for leftists so that we can destroy Western civilization with cultural Marxism. So if you're not a leftist, don't watch. Or else. Part 1. Should you actually make videos? So, I don't want to scare anyone off, but this is a lot harder than it looks. For me, each video takes at least 50 hours of work between all the different phases of the process. You're also very likely going to have to spend at least a little bit of money on equipment and software if you're going to make videos that people are going to actually want to watch. Unless you've just got all the stuff you need lying around already for some reason. You should also consider that making videos entails more than just making and uploading them. You're going to need to promote them, probably interact with your audience, maintain a social media presence, all of that sort of stuff. So, you're then opening yourself up for everything that entails. Being a leftist creator especially, you're kind of putting a target on your head. If you don't think that it will be right for you to put yourself out there as a public figure, even an anonymous one, then making YouTube videos just might not be right for you. Additionally, you might not even break even making videos. Hell, maybe no one will watch you at all. Most YouTubers just aren't successful. So don't go in with unrealistic expectations. Just try to have fun making videos, and maybe you'll get lucky along the way. If I haven't scared you off by now, then excellent. Let's move on. Part 2. What kind of videos are you going to make, and what about? You could apply my advice to any kind of video, but I mostly have video essays in mind as that's what I do and know about. There's many different ways to approach the video essay. Maybe you want to make highly informative no-frills content like Sean, or the same sort of thing but with a little bit more visual pop, like that Bad Empanada guy. So even if you don't want to actually appear in your videos, you do have options. Maybe you do want to physically feature in them though. That can range from just having a few cuts where you're talking to a camera, like some of HBummerGuy's videos, to starring in elaborate visual masterpieces like ContraPoints. Or maybe a mix between the two. Take inspiration from your favorite creators, but keep in mind that you're just starting out, so you're probably not going to be near as good as they are. Also keep in mind that things like elaborate costumes and sets are probably a bit of an unrealistic goal when starting out. If you do want to give it a try though, don't let me stop you. Next, pick some sort of theme for your channel. What are you going to make videos about? Everything is a valid answer to that question, by the way. Using myself as an example, I've chosen to focus on history and politics in places that I actually know about, so Latin America and Australia. But even that could change in the future. It's important that you decide on the style for your first few videos now though, because you're going to need varying levels of equipment depending on your choice. Speaking of which, Part 3. Equipment and software, some of which cost money. I know, spending money, it sucks, I'm sorry, but there's really no way around this part if you want people to actually watch your videos. Now, keep in mind while watching this section that there's going to be many more options out there that I don't know about. I'm not an expert and I'm just showing you a really limited selection of the options available to you, not all of them. Do your own research before making any decision, and everything that I mention will be linked in the description, whether it's a video or a piece of equipment or whatever. Firstly, you're obviously going to need a computer of some sort. Generally, the better the computer, the better off you'll be, as editing can be quite demanding. And once you're done, rendering videos is also a very demanding process. That said, I did edit all of my previous videos on a fairly mediocre laptop that froze all the time while editing, and they came out fine. So it's still doable if you've got a mediocre machine, though I imagine it would be next to impossible on a really cheap laptop or something like that. Next, software. For video editing, there's free options that should be adequate if you don't want to spend money, like OpenShot and Lightworks. But I can't really say much about them because I got frustrated and quit both in the first 30 minutes. However, if you have more patience than I do, which isn't hard, they do actually work. I know that Sean, for instance, uses Lightworks, or at least he used to. And for Mac, there's iMovie, which is free and seems to be quite easy to use, but I've never tried it. In terms of paid video editing programs, the big ones that I know of on Windows are Magix Vegas and Adobe Premiere, and on Mac there's also Premiere as well as Final Cut Pro. These are all ludicrously priced, generally $400 minimum for a permanent license. But there is a cheaper version of Vegas, called Movie Studio Platinum. I've watched some videos of people using it, and as far as I can tell, it has pretty much every feature that I've been using in Vegas, so it should be fine for amateurs like you and me. It's about $75. You're also going to need audio editing and recording software. This one's free and easy. Download Audacity. It's what I use as well, and I'm actually using it right now as I record this. You're also going to want an image editing program so that you can make things like thumbnails, still images to use in your videos, logos, and things like that. So for that, you can download Paint.net, which is a free program that's basically a really stripped down version of Photoshop. All of my thumbnails, my empanada thingy, my branding, etc. were made in Paint.net. I also suggest you get Bolt Bait's plugin pack, which adds a lot of useful features like outline text. Then there's auxiliary programs like OBS for screen recording. That's about the extent of what I use. If you need something else, you can generally find it in a Google search or a YouTube tutorial or something like that. Now for the recording equipment. Okay, so audio equipment. Super important. The quality of your audio makes the most difference of anything in how willing people will be to actually watch your videos. So don't record audio with like your phone or your laptop or whatever. Get an actual microphone made for recording. Now, I'm no audio expert, but there's two types of microphones that you need to know about. First, there's condenser microphones, which record everything around them all the time, but with very high quality and precision. These are ideal if you can record in a suitable environment, but they might be a bad idea if there's a lot of noise where you live or something like that. These are the microphones that you would see voiceover artists use or professional singers use when they're in a studio, for example. Second, there's dynamic microphones. These are activated by sound, so they don't pick up background noise as much. They don't sound quite as crisp as condensers, but they are still okay. These are the kinds of microphones that are used in, say, live performances. So, what mic should you get? I'm not going to tell you that, but I can guide you. The cheapest and easiest options are USB microphones such as the Blue Yeti and AT2020 USB. These are just plug and play basically. My first 3 videos were all recorded using the Blue Yeti. USB mics seem fine for starting out, but I've already gone and bought a more complicated setup as I just found them really frustrating to use and low quality in general. But if it's what you can afford, a USB mic should be okay, as lots of big creators still use them. Who knows why? For a more standard setup, you'll need a microphone, a USB audio interface, and an XLR cable. The microphone plugs into the interface, and the interface records its output to your PC. The nice thing about this is that once you have an audio interface, you gain a lot of flexibility for future upgrades and such, as you can use any other microphone with it. Not so if you just start out with a USB mic. My setup is a Shure SM58 dynamic microphone with a Scarlett Solo 2nd Gen audio interface. This cost me about $200 with everything brand new. But don't just copy me. You should watch reviews and tutorials and make your own decisions. Maybe you'll find some cheaper options or something that would suit you better. For audio equipment reviews and comparisons, I suggest you subscribe to Podcastage and Booth Junkie on YouTube. I watched dozens of hours of their videos before I made my own choice. And don't forget to buy a mic stand or boom arm, that's obviously essential. You should also keep in mind that microphones are really easy to maintain, so they're one of the best things that you can buy used, and there are a lot of them out there. So if you're on a budget, be sure to look at used items. You're also going to need a suitable recording environment, as if you just record in the middle of your room, there's going to be a lot of echo, and that can ruin a video by itself. So you want to dampen that somehow. This is probably even more important than your recording equipment. To give you an idea, I've got this little booth thingy that I've made with some acoustic foam and some clothes in my wardrobe. And it's okay, it gets the job done, but it could certainly be a lot better. If you want to try to make something similar, it cost me maybe $40 to buy the foam off eBay and the command strips to hold it up. You might also be able to jury rig something, like hang some bed sheets and put some couch cushions on the walls to be able to get good sound. I also highly recommend that you check out SBN Free's video series called How to Be an Online Voice Actor for more in-depth info on audio setup. Particularly, you should check out Part 5, Recording Clear, which goes over setting up your living area for better sound. Now, what if you want to actually appear in your videos, like using a camera? Well, I can't give you too much advice on that because this is actually my first time ever using a camera, and I think I'm quite clearly pretty bad at it. But I think the same principle as with everything else applies. Watch reviews, tutorials, recommendations, look at comparisons, etc., and decide on what's best for you. Keep in mind though that decent cameras are generally a lot more expensive than microphones. And I mean a lot. I actually just bought the camera that I'm recording on right now, which is a Canon SL2, also known as the 200D, I believe. This camera is considered an entry-level camera, and it was still $500 and I broke the bank to pick it up. And then once you've got the camera, there's even more costs, like a tripod, lighting, etc. But if you can afford something like this, and you're sure that you're going to use it, it is definitely a worthy investment. But never fear, people are much more likely to watch videos with mediocre video than with mediocre audio. And phone cameras can be quite decent. The phone that you already have might be good enough to get started on YouTube. Just to give you an idea of what you can get out of a mid-range phone, this is me filming handheld on my Oppo R11s, which was about $300 USD. If you get yourself a cheap tripod to keep your phone stable, maybe some lighting, I think it will be perfectly fine for starting out. One additional benefit of recording with a phone or a camera with an audio jack, and make sure they have an audio jack because a lot of cameras don't, is that you can record audio very easily by just plugging in a lavalier mic, which is one of these that I just have on my shirt here. Or you could also use, say, a camera-mounted shotgun microphone, which is a microphone that goes on top of the camera and plugs right into it. The sound quality won't be perfect, but it will definitely be decent enough to last you until later on. To learn to actually use your camera, check out YouTube tutorials. There's tutorials for every single device imaginable, and plenty of more general ones for learning how to use lighting and other fancy stuff. Part 5. Your channel and you. Now you've got all the equipment and you're finally ready to get started creating. Well, no, not yet. First, you've got to get your channel and your social media all nice and ready. You're going to do this first because I can tell you from experience that the last thing that you want to do when you've just finished a video that you put a ton of work into is have to set up your channel, set up your social media, etc. You want it all ready in advance so you can just be done. First, set up a new YouTube channel. Yes, it does need to be brand new because YouTube's algorithms work best when you're starting with a clean slate. Make sure that you create your channel as a brand account so that it doesn't use your real name. When picking your name, make sure you're happy with it because it's a bad idea to change it later, as people might have gotten used to it and they might get confused or something. And it might also confuse search results. So, now that you've got your channel, you need to enable some features that are hidden away. Go to your Creator Studio and click Features. You'll need to confirm your phone number first so that you can unlock essential things like the ability to upload videos longer than 15 minutes and custom thumbnails. There's other settings here too. They'll become available as your channel grows, so don't worry about them for now. Next, go to the Advanced tab in the Creator Studio, as shown here, and add some relevant tags for your channel. This will help it show up in relevant searches. Now, use Paint.net or whatever program you prefer to create a channel avatar, a banner, and a branding icon, which is the little watermark you see in the bottom right corner of most people's videos. The avatar's dimension should be 800 by 800, the banner should follow the guidelines of this template, which I'll link in the description, and the branding icon should be 150 by 150. If you need help using Paint.net, search YouTube and Google for tutorials. I'm a broken record, I know, but this is really what you should be doing. You probably also want to make a branded Twitter account too, or you can just keep using whatever one you've got if you want. Or just don't use social media at all, that's also an option and probably the best one. Though for growing your channel and interacting with your budding little community, it certainly helps. Next, go to your channel page and in the About tab, enter a snazzy, short little description of your channel. This will show up first in search results, so it's pretty important. And add a link to your Twitter and whatever other links you want to add. Okay, now you're done with all that tedium, onto the actually making videos part. Part 6. Actually making videos. The creative process is going to be different for everyone. All that I can do is tell you how I do it, step by step, and maybe give you some guidelines to start out. Maybe for you want to do it in a different order or mix things together or do it entirely differently, who knows? Just remember that you don't have to follow this exactly. Step 1 is the idea. Who knows when it'll come to you or how? Maybe it's something you already know a lot about, so you have a bit of a mental backlog that you can draw on to make content. That's how I made my first few videos. Maybe you had a dream. Maybe you saw something and wanted to say something about it. Maybe you had an internet argument that annoyed you so much you channeled it into making a video, which has happened to me before and doubtlessly will again in the future. Whatever works for you, do it. Step 2 is the research, the writing, and the planning. These are generally concurrent with one another. For me, I do some initial research, which mostly involves using Google and Google Scholar to find articles and books to read. I have alumni access to academic research thanks to my university, but if you don't have that privilege, don't worry. there's generally still ample research available for free. Google Scholar will have a link to the right of search results if they're freely available. Then I start writing a script based on my initial research. I fill it in with further research along the way when needed. I also make a note in the script of what I'm citing and where to make it easy for me to go back and reference it later. My script is generally structured like a spoken essay. That is, I set out to make a central argument with an introduction, a body, and a conclusion, but written in a conversational rather than formal tone. If you don't know the first thing about writing or essays, it might help to look up some essay writing guides as they can be applied to making videos as well. You should also make notes in your script for any scenes that you end up visualizing for later, things that you might want to put on screen, or if you have a camera, which scenes you'll be filming and which you'll be doing with a voiceover. That way, you won't forget them when you're editing. So, you finish all that, and then step 3, which is recording and then editing those recordings. For me, this is the worst part. I hate my voice. I make a ton of mistakes, sometimes a line doesn't come out well and I have to keep redoing it. There's just so many ways that it can get annoying fast. But there's no way around it. If you're speaking in your videos, you gotta do it. So suck it up and get it done. Or maybe you'll actually enjoy it, unlike me. What you actually do is hook up your recording gear to your computer and record into Audacity. I usually record a couple of sentences together, then pause it to check the recording and catch my breath and stuff before continuing on. I also try to get it all done in one session, because this ensures that everything will sound somewhat similar. When you're all done, then you edit the audio. The bare minimum editing you want to do in Audacity is noise reduction, to get rid of ambient background noise. For this, you want to record a few seconds of room ambience at the start of your recording, and then afterwards you can use that to remove constant background noise from it, like so. I do a lot more than that myself because I'm way too much of a perfectionist and it's really annoying. I boost my audio using normalization to -1 decibel so that it has the maximum possible volume. That way, anyone can watch it even if their device has really weak audio. But make sure no part of your recording ever goes above 0 decibels, as that causes distortion. I also add compression to ensure that louder parts don't destroy anyone's ears, and I edit out my breaths and mouth clicks and any other random sounds, though that part is very time consuming and is more optional. But these things can really make your audio sound a lot better, so keep them in mind. If you want to learn all of this stuff much more in depth, tutorials are, as usual, the answer. As for taking and editing camera recordings, well, I can't really help you much there, as this is my first time ever recording with a camera myself, and afterwards I'm going to go and edit for the first time too, so yeah. But well, I think the same principles basically apply. Get as good a take as possible, fix it up in post, and look up tutorials for anything that you need to know. Step 4 of the creative process is editing and rendering your video. Now you're on to the good part. I find editing really relaxing. Hopefully you will too. I don't have much advice to offer here, as it really differs depending on what program you're using. And well, this isn't a video editing tutorial, so you're gonna have to learn as you go along like I did, and I'm a huge dumbass, so you can surely do it too. Again, tutorials and all that. Part 7. Finally getting your video online. So, you've checked and double checked everything and you're finally all done. Great, congratulations, seriously. Go to YouTube and upload your video. Don't worry, once it's done uploading it won't be public until you choose to make it public. But you're not totally done yet. You need to enter a title, write a description and upload a thumbnail. All of these are very important as they're what get people to click on your video. The title is of course up to you, but here's some advice for the description. Put a snazzy one-liner that sums up your video's content. Then take advantage of the way that the first 3 lines of your description show up without expanding on desktop. What I do with that is I link my Twitter and Patreon, that way people can see them when they're scrolling by to the comments. After that, link your sources or whatever else you want to put in there. And at the very end of your description, you can put free hashtags. I'm not sure what this does exactly, but you might as well do it. Then enter some regular tags and such, again for search results. And now you've got to make a thumbnail. Thumbnails are super important since they're everyone's first impression of your video, so don't just use one of the defaults. Open up paint.net, do the whole tutorial thing again and get to work. Thumbnails should be 1280 by 720. Here's some of mine to give you an idea. All of these were made with paint.net. I also strongly suggest that you write captions for your video. It's pretty easy to do with YouTube's auto-align tool, and it makes it a lot more accessible for viewers who are hard of hearing, or people who can read English but who maybe can't listen to it so well, etc. My metrics show that about 12% of my viewers watch with captions on, which is quite a large portion of the audience. So that's one more optional thing to think about that's just a little bit more work for you, but that will mean a lot to those who benefit from it. And now it's done. You can publish your video if you want. Note though, you should be conscious of just when you publish your video. I've found that the best time to do so is around midday Eastern Standard Time US. Depending on your target audience, that will vary. If you're, say, making a video for French speakers, you'd want to publish it at French times. Part 8. Shameless self-promotion. So with your video all up and ready, it's time for you to spam it everywhere. Don't feel bad about it either. People in leftist spaces are usually very happy to see new original content and new creators. The most important place to post your video is Reddit. Some leftist subreddits of note where you should definitely post are BreadTube, which is the best sub, Chapo Trap House, Left Without Edge, and Socialism. There's also other subreddits that are more for certain niches that you can post to as well, but you'll actually need to think about those ones. I'll put the list in a pastebin in the description with comments so that you can check it out. I also suggest the Leftist YouTuber Posting Facebook group. It's quite small but very active, and it's just quite a fun place to post anyway, so you should definitely join. Apart from that, you could try posting your video on Twitter and tagging bigger YouTubers so that they might retweet you or something like that, but that's kind of a bit awkward. Definitely do post your video on your own Twitter though, even if you don't have any followers yet. You never know who might see it and retweet it. Then, well, that's it. From there, it's all you. Let me know if this tutorial helped you out. Other than that, there's not really much more left to say other than, well, go forth, make videos, and destroy Western civilization, my minion. Oh, and also, very important, when you're famous, don't forget me. Don't forget that I helped you get there, and give me some of your money. Now, here's my own shameless self-promotion. If you liked this, if it helped you, you can subscribe to my channel where I make leftist video essays, support me on Patreon, follow me on Twitter, all that stuff. See you later, and thanks a whole lot to my patrons.
And especially Freelance Policeman, my only $5 patron.